Hi, my name is Jen Watson and I'm the Student Success Center Technician. I create workshops like these throughout the fall and spring semesters. If you ever have questions about a workshop, feel free to contact me. My contact information will be included in the last slide. During the spring semester, many students are beginning to think of life after college, and a part of that are creating cover letters and resumes that you will use to get a job. Sometimes creating cover letters and resumes can be time-consuming and difficult, but the good news is that once you come up with a letter and resume, you can save it and simply update it as you move along in your career. This workshop is about the traditional formatting of a cover letter. There are pretty clear universal guidelines on how to set up cover letters. The cover letter example I will use in this workshop is built for applying at a restaurant for a management position. The same guidelines can be followed for any position you might apply for. Feel free to explore the different examples you can find on the internet and familiarize yourself with the language. Today we will discuss the purpose of a cover letter, the general formatting, and the different parts. You may be wondering what's the point of a cover letter. First of all, if you are sending out or handing in a resume, a cover letter must accompany it. It will be the first thing that the prospective employer looks at, and so it is your very first contact and impression. If you don't hand one in, the employer might hold it against you. And maybe someone who has a similar qualification does hand one in, and that person has the advantage. The cover letter gives a taste of what your resume will look like and should encourage the employer to keep reading. It also gives you the chance to show some of your personality and writing ability. The cover letter should match your resume. It creates a complete and professional appearance. Cover letters are usually sent in as an email, so should be left aligned and the paragraphs are not indented. The paragraphs will be separated by an extra space. It will also consist of 3 paragraphs. The 3 paragraphs will be your introduction, the plot, and the conclusion, and should be only 1 page in length. The first and maybe most important part of your cover letter is your contact information. You need your full name presented clearly. If you go by a nickname more than your real name, it is okay to put that here. For example, my real name is Jennifer, but I go by Jen, so it is okay for me to put Jen here. You might find that whatever you put is what all your coworkers will end up calling you if you get the job. Your permanent address follows your name. Make sure that this is an address that you can reliably get mail and they are able to check often. Next is your permanent phone number. Make sure that your voicemail is set up and you keep it empty. Also make sure that your voicemail message is professional and appropriate. You will also need an email address, and it's also something that you should be appropriate and that you should check often. It is possible that you will be informed of an interview through an email. Lastly, you should put your website, if you have one, or an online portfolio. I also suggest that you create a LinkedIn profile and list the URL and your contact information. If you don't know what LinkedIn is, go ahead and check it out. It is similar to Facebook, but it is solely meant to network with prospective employers and coworkers. Basically an online version of your resume. If you do not have a website or a LinkedIn profile, that is okay too. Just stop with your email address. You need to double and triple check the contact information section to be certain that there are no typos. It is your first impression with an employer and the information needs to be clear and accurate. You will also need to put the date that you are sending in your cover letter and resume information, as well as the employer's information. If you know who the hiring manager is, that is great, and you can put that here. If you do not know who the hiring manager is, you can just put the address, or you can put hiring manager. For the salutation, if you don't know who the manager is, you can put hiring manager or to whom it may concern. Here's an example of what your contact information might look like. You can see that I use some color and it matches exactly with my contact information that is on my resume. I also have the date, employer, employer address, and RE:kitchen manager as advertised on Indeed. This also shows who the letter is directed to and why. The introduction of your letter should include a salutation as well as 3 pieces of information. How did you find out about the job? Was it through a referral, newspaper, website, Facebook, or anything like that? Employers like to know where people get their information. You should also quickly explain why you are interested. And finally, you need to state exactly the position you are applying for. A lot of times companies are hiring for more than one position, so you need to be clear so that they don't have to guess. This will also show that you know something about the company and have a clear goal in mind. Here you can see my salutation and the introduction to the letter. Explain again where I saw the job listing and why I'm interested in the position and which position that is. The cover letter plot is the main part of your letter. It can include a lot of different kinds of information, but make sure that you keep it sweet and simple. You can write this part in paragraph form, or you can bullet point information instead. It should include why and how you qualify for the position, including what your main experiences are that have prepared you. You can also show personal goals here by stating what you have accomplished and what you would like to keep working on. A great way of showing your qualifications is by adding some of the key words from the job description and incorporating them into your own experience. Here's the example of my cover letter plot. You can see it's quite lengthy, but it covers some very important information that I've pulled from my actual resume. So you can see that I start off with where I went to school and what degree I got and what my goal was after school. I put this here in this case because it actually has nothing to do with what the position I'm applying for is. So I like to kind of break the ice with this and then explain why my goals have shifted over the years. So I went from being a high school teacher someday to entering the food industry. I also quickly transition into what my experiences are, and that really is the main point of this body paragraph, this plot paragraph. So I transition into showing that my experience with teaching also applies to restaurant management with my patience and training experience, which are huge key points of working in a restaurant. And then I pull out the main restaurant that I have my most experience in first, even though it wasn't my last job. But this is where I did most of what is relevant here. So I explain quickly what I did at that restaurant. So it was hiring, orientations, training of front and back of the house staff. So that also covers some keywords that may have been in the job description. And it is also what I had a lot of experience doing. Then I also explained that I had a lot to do with inventory ordering and food costs, some more keywords for the food industry. And then I hit on customer service a bit, which is important for most positions that you might apply for. And I give some concrete data. So I say that I met the 90% overall customer satisfaction rating. Whenever you can add in data that looks good for you, go ahead and do that. Being as specific as possible can really help you and set you apart from other people. After explaining what I did at Payway, I move on to a more recent position, which is a manager at a sports store. It isn't really relevant, but it shows that I managed in different kinds of situations and that I was put in charge of different things. So in this case, I was in charge of the apparel department, oversaw shipments, and did training again, which is important because it shows that I was trusted by more than one employer to do training of staff members. And then I conclude it by saying, with my knowledge and experience in management, I would be quick to train and could easily fall into place as a leader of the kitchen staff. So the idea here is really to pull from your resume all the main parts that you would like to actually talk about maybe in an interview. And you can say all this here in the main part of your cover letter. The last part of your cover letter is the conclusion, and it's just a couple sentences long. Here you need to ask for an interview politely and give how you would prefer they contact you. And then you also need to make sure that you thank the reader. This is the example of the conclusion. You can see that I asked for an interview and I give my phone and email address. This is at the beginning of the letter, and it is necessary to put it again here so you don't have to expect them to look at the beginning. It's just a nice way of ending it, especially if you prefer one way of contact over another. And then I thank whoever is reading this cover letter. Then I end the letter with a sincerely and my name. And then at the very bottom, you can put what is enclosed with your cover letter. Usually this is just your resume, but it can also be letters of reference, transcripts, or certifications. But only add those items in if it is asked of you. This is the example of the cover letter in its entirety. You can see that it is a full 1 page. It's not half a page. It's not a page and a little bit extra. It's exactly 1 page. And that is important because it looks a little bit more professional. And you can see all my contact information at the top is a little bit separated from the rest, which also matches my resume. I give the date, the employer information, the salutation, 3 paragraphs, and the sincerely. Thank you for following along with this workshop. If you need any help along the way with creating your cover letter or resume, feel free to contact me. I am also available for proofreading. Please click on the link to fill out a very short survey. Surveys like these help me present the best workshops possible.